Hi, I'm Jessica.
And I'm Kira.
And we are
the Keepers of the Books,
your online librarians. And we're here with another weekly reads for you. We have some great reads, and we're here to share them with you and hope that you find some books that you want to read too.
Shadow Magic by Joshua Kahn. This follows the story of two characters, Lily and Thorn. Thorn is from a very poor farm family / carpenter family, and he learned to survive by poaching animals to feed his family. And it basically leads to him ending up being a slave, and Tyborn, the executioner for the Shadow family, comes and buys him up and takes him to Castle Gloom to be his squire. There he meets Lily, who is now Lady Shadow because her family has been killed by 6 brigands. Now, as her uncle is trying to find her a perfect match for her to get married, someone is also trying to poison her. So not only does she not want to get married, the guy's a real pain in the bum. She would rather live. So she teams up with Thorn to find out who really is trying to kill her and her family. It's a very fast-paced adventure with lots of action and fantasy, including a very big, cuddly bat and some fun scenes that are just full of magic. You'll have a hard time putting this book down, because I certainly did. This is a review book from Disney Hyperion, and I would recommend this for grades 5 to 9 or ages 10 to 15.
Ionic by Suzanne Weyn. Suzanne Weyn is a great author, and she tends to write short books that are fast-paced and are great books for reluctant readers. This book is about Mira. Mira is in an accident with a gas tanker on her way to a band practice one day. She's an up-and-coming lacrosse player. She's got her band, she's got school, she's got some scholarships coming her way, sports scholarships. This accident leaves her without a leg and an arm, but she does come out of it, and when she does, she realizes that her life's never going to be the same. Now, thanks to a special experimental program for getting soldiers better prosthetics when they come back from war, she is used as a test subject. And through this, she gets a revolutionary new chance on life, a new leg, a new arm, and a chip in her brain that will help her mind to control them. But the thing is, she doesn't seem to quite fit in anywhere. So since she's not fitting in anywhere, people are saying it's unfair, that she's not quite the right person for the sports teams, and it's just an unfair advantage. And it keeps going on and on. So this is a book about learning to come to terms with who you are after an accident and having to go through that process as you get prosthetics and other things. This is a good book, a short read, great for reluctant readers. I would say grades 8 through 12 on this one, which is going to be ages 13 through 18.
This next book is Traveler by Arwen Ellis Dayton. If you haven't read the first one, Seeker, please fast forward to Jessica's next book because this will contain spoilers. Can't help it with this one. Traveler is about Quinn Kincaid, and she has long since been destined to take over as a seeker and follow in her dad's legacy. At the end of the last book, she comes to heads with her now ex-love John over a dark secret in her family's past and what the seekers really do and what her dad's athame really is. She's now at odds with the seeker community that follows John. As in all books that are Save the World type books, she has to figure out her family's dark past, more about what's really going on with the athame her dad gave her, as well as deal with her feelings with her long-term friend Shinobu. Can she figure out what's really going on with her past? Does John have some truth to what he told her in the last book? Very fun, action-packed fantasy adventure. It does have some mature content and some swearing, so this would be best suited for grades 8 and up or ages 13 and up. The sequel, Disruptor, continues the adventures from the previous book, but Shinobu has been captured by a seemingly nice grandmotherly figure who actually has an ulterior motive to turn him into a killing machine. Because of this, Quinn is forced to side up with John, her ex, and they have to find all these ancient seekers that were frozen in time and put in other dimensions so they can bring them together and pool their powers in order to defeat this grandmotherly figure. This is a very fun, action-packed book as well, and I just love how the author, even from book 1, has just really developed the characters. They've continued to grow, and everything just comes to a nice, tidy conclusion. I would recommend this one also for grades 8 and up or ages 13 and up. This one is a review book from Delacorte Press.
Stay in the Game by Megan Atwood. Megan Atwood writes a lot of books, but she's been writing some nice, short, what I call lightning reads, or high-low books. This one is a review book from Darby Creek, which is Learner Books, and Kiss the Book, kissthebook.blogspot.com. This is book 1 in the Contest series. This is about James. James's grandpa is dying of cancer. His parents are already dead, and his aunt is off serving across the world as a Doctors Without Borders. There is an experimental treatment that has a chance of saving James's grandpa's life, but it's definitely not in their affordability range. When his grandpa takes a turn for the worse, James gets a mysterious message saying, if you complete these 10 tasks in the way that we tell you to, and you're the first one to complete them, we will give you $10 million and you can buy your grandpa's treatment. The first task doesn't seem as difficult, and they start getting more difficult as you go. Of course, you have to do them exactly the way they say, but they start seeming a little more sketchy. The rules are sketchier. They seem a little dangerous. And James isn't sure what he's getting himself into, but he would do anything to save his grandpa because his grandpa's really all he has. I love the Darby Creek High-Low books. They are some of my students' favorite books as well, because for my reluctant readers, they're very action-packed. They cut out all the detail that's excess, kind of fluffy stuff, and it just gets down to plot and action and moving that along. So this is book 1. At the end, it leaves you at this point where you're like, oh, I have to read book 2 now. You don't know who's won, who's not, and how the characters interplay, because with all of these series, the characters for all of the books are in all of the books, and they do tie together, but you can read just one or you can read several, and it works out really well. There is 0 language in this book. You could go grade 7 through 12 on this one because it's really kind of ambiguous how old the character is. You just know he's in high school, so ages 12 through 18.
A List of Cages by Robin Rowe. This story follows 2 characters, Julian and Adam. About 5 years ago, Julian was staying with Adam's family right after his family passed away. He's taken by his uncle Randall to live with him. Unfortunately, his uncle's abusive and he has a lot of issues with his uncle. When he comes to be at the same school as Adam, Adam starts uncovering these truths about what's really going on in Julian's life and how this boy, he had so much life and so much energy, suddenly changes to a very introverted, distant personality. Things kind of come to a climax, and Adam's going to have to make a decision on whether or not he needs to step in and do something to help Julian or leave Julian to be on his own. I liked how the characters played out in this book. They're very well developed and really pull the reader into the story. There may be some moments where you really feel for the characters. Because of the child abuse and neglect, as well as some language, I would recommend this for grades 8 and up or 13 and up. This is a review book from Hyperion.
The Bone Sparrow by Zana Fraillon. This book is about Subi. Subi is in a refugee camp, and when the writer wrote this, it's meant to be like the ones in Australia where they have no hope. They don't know this, but there's really no hope of them ever leaving. The Bone Sparrow is more of a necklace, and it's a sign of both death and hope to the various characters. Subi, we don't really know how old he is, but we know that he's probably upper middle school. And the way that it works out, his father's not there. His mother's very, very sick. His sister's there, and then there's a boy named Eli that they've taken kind of in, although everybody's kind of family. The guards are there. Some of them are abusive, and some of them are absolutely pretty wonderful to the characters. One day, Subi sees a little girl across the fence. Her name is Jimmy, and she has a book. Jimmy cannot read. Her mother is dead, and she wears a bone sparrow necklace. She runs into him across the fence, and she asks him if he can read, and he can read, and she has this book that she wants to hear more of because it's the book that her mother used to read to her. So they meet up, and she brings him things like hot chocolate, and he reads to her. They become fast friends. She gives him a flashlight he has to hide, and they have a signal. One, if it's safe for her to come, or if she's in danger, or needs help, things like that. Or if he needs help, just depending on how the signal's going. So Subi's relationship with the girl grows, his relationship and learning about himself. So basically this is just his story and the story of those he loves. It is a good book, and it's heart-wrenching, and it's really good for kids to know that life is always different for other people. It can be harder. For my students, when they read books like this, it's really good for them to know that they have life pretty well taken care of. The great thing about this book is that it will work really well into, I know it's kind of a bad word for some people, the Common Core standards. The Common Core standards for English are mostly a set of goals. They're not what to content should be taught so much as they need to be able to do these things. They need to be able to read this way. They need to be able to write these kind of things at this point. There are different kinds of essays and research that they have to write. This book will pair really well with both fiction and nonfiction and research projects because it does talk about some of those refugee camps that are currently there and some of the situations that these people find themselves in. So you can write the various types of essays and read the various types of text, compare and contrast, all that. So this is a great one for the classroom as well as just a realistic fiction read. And because you don't really know how old the character is, probably grades 5 through 9 or ages 10 through 15. This is a review book from Disney Hyperion.
Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. This follows the story of Ruth Jefferson. She's a labor and delivery nurse at a hospital in a southern state. And she goes to do a routine checkup on a newborn, finds a heart murmur, but also finds two parents who are over-the-top white supremacists. She doesn't really realize at first why, but they demand to speak to her supervisor. She gets kicked off the case, and then a note is stuck in the kid's chart that says no African Americans should be doing anything on this baby. All's good and well until one night when she gets called into work, when somebody is out sick. Two nurses are called into the OR and the baby has just been circumcised, so somebody has to watch over the very newborn she's not supposed to touch. And just as she's there and been there a few minutes, the baby goes into cardiac arrest. So she's forced to make a decision. Does she defy orders and perform CPR on this kid when she's its only hope, or does she stand by the orders she's given? Eventually she does decide to do CPR on the baby, and soon the hospital, trying to save their own butts, decide to dump it all on Ruth and blame it on her. And so she ends up on trial for negligent homicide. And it almost destroys her whole life while she's going through this trial. And the whole time she's trying to decide if she can find it in herself to forgive what these white supremacists did, as well as find a way to clear her name with or without bringing up racism. At first I thought this book was a little far-fetched, but then I read the acknowledgments and the author's note, and it turns out it's based off of a real story, actually a couple real stories. And it was quite eye-opening to me to realize that. I like how even the villains in this book end up developing and changing and becoming new people, as well as the attorney, the judge, even Ruth. They're all changed by this experience. Even the reader is. If you've liked Jodi Picoult's other books, you'll like this book. You may also like this book if you're interested in modern-day racism, or if you're looking for a tearjerker of a read that's mostly realistic fiction. This is a review book from Random House, and it would be suitable only for adults.
Summer Lost by Ali Condi. Ali Condi is the author of Matched. This book is for a slightly younger crowd. This is about Cedar. Cedar has a little brother, Ben. Their father and little brother recently died, so them and their mom decide to go to this small town called Iron Creek. Now, they are from Salt Lake, I believe. So the book takes place in a high desert. It seems to be like Cedar City to me, just because they have like their Shakespeare Festival, and it sounds like the Shakespeare Festival in Cedar City, but it's not. It's not supposed to be. So Cedar's still in pain from her brother and her dad's death. And they buy this little house in Iron Creek, and they decide they're going to spend their summers there and rent it out to college students during the summer. Do you see why I pulled the Cedar City reference out of there? It seems like SUU. It really does. She sees this boy riding past kind of on a costume on a bike every morning, and she thinks he's a geek, but eventually she decides she's going to follow him. So she's got her helmet on, she's got the bike hiding behind the house kind of thing, and she follows him. And then he's like, well, why are you following me? And he decides to get her a job. So her and Leo become friends, and they spend a lot of the time at the Summer Lost Festival, Shakespeare Festival. And you have an adventure, you have a realistic fiction, a coming together and learning about yourself and how life has changed type of book. And they also piece together some clues about a tragic death of one of their most famous residents. So you've got mystery, you've got realistic fiction, you've got friendship, you have tragedy, and emotionally it's just a really entangling book. It was enjoyable. There's pretty much no language and no content to be worried about. So if you have a good reader, you could go down to about grades 4 through 8. Typical middle reader. The character is 12 years old, ages 10 through 14. So that's it for our weekly reads. So please be sure to comment, like, and subscribe so you'll hear about more weekly reads and more of our other episodes that we have coming. And remember, we're your online librarian, so if you put any reference questions below or ask for read-alikes or anything like that, we will be sure to address those. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.